I already thanked you, but I mean, to take the time to sit down and chat with me, I mean, you're probably quite the busy woman.
I am quite busy, but it's an honor and a pleasure to chat to you, Melissa. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. So, Doctor, okay, well, how would you like me to refer to you, Doctor?
You,
You know,
you can call me Renee. That's perfectly fine.
okay, fantastic. Renee, how did I mean, your education and then your experiences, how did all of that shape your whole perspective on the challenges and even the opportunities when it comes to the tourism field?
I think the most important thing for me, Melissa, which also makes me stand out, is and gives me a unique perspective on these things is the fact that I was a student for 15 years. I was a lecturer for 15 years. So I've seen both sides of that as a student and in the academic universe. I've worked in the industry. I've worked in luxury, tourism, travel, and hospitality my whole life. It's a definite choice that I made from the start. So I have seen things in travel and tourism as well as in hospitality because I have the industry experience and exposure to that. And of course, through learning and development and consulting, you see a lot of gaps, problems that people want you to try to solve. So I think after a while, you get to see that there's a bit of a trend or a pattern.
Mm. Now, South Africa is, in my opinion, and I mean, it might be because I'm very, very biased, but South Africa, in my opinion, is one of the most beautiful countries in the world. What are some of the current trends that you've noticed shaping the tourism and hospitality industry within South Africa, specifically after COVID? I know we took quite a hit after COVID.
One of the things I realized is how big of a contributor to South Africa's GDP, tourism and travel and hospitality really is. So the stats at the moment, one of the stats I've got here is that South Africa's tourism and hospitality sector is projected to support 1.9 million jobs in 2025, wow, which is 11.3% of South Africa's total employment. So as impressive as that is, it means that we need to ensure that young people are equipped, that they are exposed to the industry and that they are equipped with the skills and knowledge to succeed in the industry because it is booming. I mean, just to give you another stat, which I found quite interesting, is that in 2035, South Africa's tourism and hospitality sector is projected to support 2.6 million jobs. So that's 13.8% of the national workforce. So to get to 2035's goal from where we are now, Melissa, that's a growth of 620,000 jobs. And that's
in just 10 years.
In just tourism and hospitality. And we are quite on track. The government's target for tourism employment for 2029, I mean, that's 4 years from now, is a 30% increase from where we currently are. So, I want to make people aware and expose them to the importance, of tourism and hospitality in our country. So, to get back to your question about some things that are happening, there's definitely been a shift. I don't want to use the C word, Melissa. I don't want to talk about COVID, but there's definitely been a shift since then, not only in the tourism and hospitality industry in terms of guests or clients' behavior or requests or demands, but also in terms of what employees are looking for, what they are willing to settle for. I don't want to settle. It's totally, things are totally different. If we had this conversation before COVID, my responses would be quite different. So just to give you an example, especially for Gen Z, but definitely for all the upcoming generations, an important thing to them is experiences. So where in the old days you could get away with selling a bed and a breakfast, maybe, accommodation or hospitality, we can no longer get away with that, and we shouldn't get away with that. People are looking for experiences on all levels. That's why they're looking for specialized kind of hotels, right? A hotel that does something different, that has a different menu or a different chef, or they want to be part of the cooking experience. They want to be, when I say engaged, they want to be involved in the experience. It's no longer something that's happening outside of yourself. Now, the thing that is quite interesting, Melissa, is that this is what the younger generations also want in terms of jobs. Employees are also looking for experiences. They are no longer happy just with maybe a Friday pizza. They want an experience when they are at work. They want to have fun. Yeah. They want to learn. They want to be stimulated. They want to experience things as an employee also, which is quite interesting. There's a couple of other things, regarding the experiences, which I also think is very, very interesting. And I've seen the trend coming for the past few years, COVID or not, is things like more specialized services. In the past, somebody would just go on I'm just going to make an example, Melissa, like a Cape Town wine tour, right? Like a winelands tour. Now yes. They want that personalized, customized to them, to their own preferences and what they are looking for. It could be they want to see something at the wine farm that other people don't see. Exclusivity is also part of this experience, right? I think that is going to drive this into the future, not just in hospitality and tourism, but I think for guests, as I mentioned, for employees. So I kind of love that. I love that people want to get involved in things and not just be on the outside looking in. So I think that's a big one. Another trend definitely is that with AI, they can get an answer like that, an answer yes. specific to their personal, customized preference and question. And AI will tell them exactly, go to this place, phone this guy, call this number, check out this website. So guests are becoming a lot more, I want to say, demanding or have higher expectations, because when they do then turn up at the hotel or restaurant or wherever it is, they then expect that same level from you as a human. So when they ask you, what time is this and this, right? They expect instant information, but they also rely on the reviews of other people, which can be good or bad. It can be very good news if you have good reviews across the board, and it can be quite bad news for your reputation if someone is unhappy, even about the smallest thing.
And it's very difficult to get rid of those, very bad reviews, even if it is something like from a misunderstanding. Those reviews, like they say, the internet is forever. Those reviews don't go anywhere. It's always going to be somewhere.
And it's more important now than ever before that there is someone in the organization responding. So as a hospitality and tourism expert, I always check, did someone respond to that post? Did someone respond to that complaint in the online world? Because they maybe did offline, but if I can't see it, I don't know what happened.
Then it's not. Yeah.
Did it happen?
That is a good point. I didn't think of it that way.
Did it ever happen if there's no proof, right? So
exactly.
So companies, Melissa, that engage with guests, to say, I'm sorry, or we'll check it out, or whatever it is, or thank you for your feedback, I'll pass it on to whoever, I think they are going to be the winners in this equation, because I'm not the only person that thinks like that. So I think tech, obviously, technology, AI, it's influencing a lot of industries, but in our industry, the integrations are also becoming more standard. Like, for instance, apps to visit places, or checking in online to your hotel, or not having a room key anymore to open the door. I think those things are all becoming things that guests kind of expect. Another trend I've also seen, which I'm sure you're also aware of, is more focus on local offerings, not just like supporting local in terms of food and community and employees and things like that. But I think guests are looking for more local things. They want to do like a homestay, or they want to eat lunch at a local person in the community's house. They're looking for things that happen locally, visiting a farmer's market, that is unique to that particular place, to that experience.
Absolutely. So, I mean, there are quite a few. I mean, are wanting to expand this market quite a bit, which means that there has to be some sort of like emerging opportunities within tourism and the hospitality sector, especially for young professionals. Are there any that stand out to you the most that young professionals should be aware of?
Right. So there are quite a lot of shifts, as I mentioned, happening that are disrupting things. So I think in terms of emerging occupations, Melissa, from my perspective, I would say in hospitality and tourism, the things that are becoming absolutely non-negotiable are what we used to call soft skills, right? Or
Yes.
personal skills, okay? Which a lot of people take for granted, that people have soft skills or have people skills. So I'm just going to give you an example. So soft skills are things like, obviously being able to communicate. There's a lot more things involved in communicating. The other thing that is going to become much more important is the focus on customer service, and focusing on the guest. The guest has always been paramount. The guest has always been what our industry is about. It's never been about me or you. It's always just about the guest. But that is going to become the number one thing that will set, I believe, that will set tourism and hospitality companies or organizations apart from each other, is the way that they look after and protect and serve that particular guest. That one person should be the most important person. So when you're talking about emerging occupation, sorry, that's just a bit of context. What I think is that the more we are going to focus on different types of technologies, and especially in our industry, integrations between those different technologies, between revenue management and the hotel property management system, and other integrations for online check-in, online ordering, procurement, invoicing, all of these other complex systems that kind of work in silos or have worked in silos up to now. It's going to become more and more important that we train people for the future. It's no longer good enough to look at what's currently happening. What's currently happening could change in an instant. What's happened in the past, right? What's happened in the past, we see this in things like fashion and trends like that, could come back. For instance, the slow movement, people wanting to switch off their phones, get away from things. But in general, we are needing to train professionals for a future that is uncertain, right? So we have to forecast, we have to predict what is going to happen so that we can give everybody the best chance to succeed. Okay, so some of these things might sound familiar to you, right? For instance, I think emerging occupations will be jobs like more analyst kind of jobs in hospitality and tourism, in different industries too, right? So people who can analyze all of that data that comes in, all the data from social media. Where did the guest click? How long did they linger, right? Why did the guest click here and not there? What else was the guest looking for? The data analyst, I think, will become very important. So not just technology creating the data, but we need someone to interpret the data. We need someone to say what is happening. So you can have a very complex revenue management system, but if you don't know what the information means, how are you going to turn the knowledge into action? Another couple of interesting things in the industry will definitely be content creation. So I want to say social media, but on a next level, right? I've spent my whole life, as I mentioned earlier today, in luxury travel. Luxury travelers have a different kind of perception and perspective of things. Okay. They obviously do follow influencers. They are influencers, many of them themselves, but they are not fooled by things that look fake. All right. Because a lot of the things that might be aspirational to you and I, Melissa, like aspirational travel, like, oh, I'd love to go on a cruise one day, right? It's my dream, I'll save all my life savings to do that, is normal for luxury travelers. So you have to create the content with the target market in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody these days, I mean, is a social media influencer. Everybody fancies themselves as a content creator, So I think what is important is that hotels need to do this in a professional way, meeting the needs of the target market, whether it's more fun, whether it's more professional, and they need to focus on those, can I say, emotions that the guests have. So what I'm saying is that the two I've explained so far are emerging jobs that AI can't replace right now. AI can't tell me what emotion you feel when you watch this video, right? AI, it doesn't have that human component. So things in tourism and hospitality, although they've always been focused on the human component, it's going to become the most crucial thing. So things like digital marketers also, and I'm not talking, Melissa, about someone who studied marketing, right? Digital marketing is a different, right? Because oftentimes in hotels, when you see a job spec, it'll say someone who studied marketing. This is not going to cut it anymore. And I think the value of someone who does whatever the title is, but someone who does and curates and manages this, as well as someone who curates and manages the experiences on the digital platforms, and someone that curates and manages the influencers. Because if the influencers are unhappy, we know how that ends up, right? So it's more than just a computer-based sitting in an office job. It's a go out there, help the influencers, help the guests get the best pictures, the best experiences, show them the beautiful view, whatever it is. Obviously other things that are also, I think, emerging trends or emerging jobs have to do with AI and automation specialists. A lot of things in hospitality and tourism can be automated to a certain extent. So, like some guests are okay with getting an automated response saying, thanks for your email, we'll get back to you, or here's your confirmation letter. Or in luxury travel, are not happy with that.
They want to personalize.
Right, they want to, even though they don't care who, what, how, where, they don't care how you do it, but it needs to look like a human wrote it and wrote it for them. Yes. But the automation can speed up things in a hotel and tourism and travel environment, allowing time for the employees to give time to the guests, which is an important component. So definitely, guest experience managers, I've seen lots of different kind of titles for these jobs. Someone who manages the guest experiences, again, all of these things, when I say it, kind of sounds the same, but it's got to do with, the experiences and the digital experience, of the guest. And then obviously there's a couple more of these kind of emerging occupations that we see everywhere, Melissa, like more focus on sustainability, like a sustainability manager, also wellness. So a lot of people think that wellness is the same as like a spa, or something like that. But wellness actually, the trend has more to do with three-dimensional people. The trend has more to do with meeting your mind, right? Your emotions, mentally, your body. So more like mindfulness, not just menus or nutrition, kind of putting all of that together. So things like sound therapy, so wellness is the new term that encompasses things like that, but needs to be personalized. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, specialist kind of things that guests are looking for need hotels, hospitality, tourism businesses to find that specialist thing. So, for instance, having sound therapy, right, at the spa, having a chef that comes from whichever country that cooks authentic, that type of food, okay, having a nutritionist on board who can help you to
Oh, wow.
determine what your menu will be for the next few days. So when I say specialist, I'm not saying, okay, go to this hotel because it has a nice view. I mean, you go to that place because there is something there that is unique. I don't know, does that make sense? So
It
there's a
does. It's
person.
you're going there for that whole, you want to, especially those, I mean, in today's world, everyone travels to post on the Instagram, and
Yes.
you want to post something that no one else has done. You want to say, I have done this, no one else has done this. And you want to share
Right.
that experience with those who are like following you. So it makes a lot of sense, especially I think in today, like the way people, because we're always influenced by people that we see, and
Sure.
they're always showing all these vibrant places and these amazing experiences that they get to do. So a lot of people who don't always experience that, when they do want to, they want something
Yes.
different. And now, what sort of advice, Renee, would you give to like young professionals, or who, for example, recently graduated, who are wanting to break into the tourism and hospitality industry? I mean, there's all these different avenues that we just discussed, but what is, I mean, they can't just say, okay, I'm going to go straight into tourism. I mean, it's quite a difficult industry to just get into and make successful of,
It is. I mean, it is an absolutely magical industry. I mean, speak to anyone who works in travel and tourism and hospitality, and they will encourage you and guide you and explain to you how magical it is. I mean, there's things about this industry that no one else will believe or understand. It's an absolute honor to be able to, and a privilege to be able to serve people. But working with people, Melissa, is hard. It is not as easy as it sounds. People entering or re-entering, for that matter, because after COVID, that's also something that's quite interesting, right? People that left the industry that are returning, re-entering
oh,
the
okay.
industry. For me, it means that you need to compete on a different level that you needed to compete 4, 5, 10, 20 years ago. Okay, so you need to have superior people or soft skills to be able to fulfill these jobs that are coming. So things like critical thinking, problem
Hmm.
solving, right? Customer service orientation. These are words we throw around, we read every day, we see on people's CVs. But I'm talking about the action. I'm talking about, show me how you solve this problem. Okay.
Hmm.
Show me. You can say, I'm a critical thinker. Okay, cool. Give me an example of when you had to think critically. Give me an example of how good your decision making skills are. And in interviews and things like that, that is what people are asking. They're no longer asking, what is your strength, Melissa? What do you know about this? They're no longer asking that. They're
Hmm.
asking, are you prepared for what is coming? And what is coming is the guest that is the most important thing. So that's the right word, Melissa. People overestimate how good their soft skills are. Okay.
Hmm.
So what's happening in the hospitality industry, especially, is we are in great need of a lot of people at the lower end entry level. So low wage, low skill. Okay.
Okay.
Then we are in need of people on the other end of the scale. we are in great need of people that earn high wages, right? And have high skills. Okay, so there you go, low and high. Okay, many of the jobs in the middle bit, so middle management, supervisor, these middle kind of jobs that we've very much relied on in the past, I believe many of those jobs will be eliminated or reduced by automation and AI and things like that. So it's kind of a strange thing to explain to students or to you or to people, because what I'm saying is we need a lot of people at entry level, and we need a lot of people at the other spectrum that really can think critically, make decisions, can strategize, can, are really emotionally intelligent, have experience to deal with the guests. But now you got to think to yourself, Melissa, to get to that level, you've got to go from the low end, right? So you have to travel.
I was
through
just
this.
thinking that same thing.
You're going to
It's like,
have to
because then you've
navigate.
got you have a new entrant. They started at the low level. They want to make it and they want to progress, but then you're saying that in the middle management and that's all going to start falling away. So there's very little opportunity there.
Right.
And then in order to make it to top management. No, okay. I see the
So
slight.
it's interesting, and I've seen it. Okay, so what I'm saying is that you need to figure out a way to navigate to gain that experience in the middle section. Before COVID, when you walked into a hotel, especially a luxury hotel, you would see many people, right? You'd see many employees. What is happening with this whole polarization, and I've seen this, is that there are less people after COVID, right? There are less people, but they are doing all of those jobs. So I'm going to give you an example. So at the front desk, you might see one person, right? That person is the front desk agent, the front office manager, the front office supervisor, the concierge, right? They are the host. They're offering you the warm lavender towel. They're offering you a drink personalized to you. They know your name. They know everything about you. They've opened the door for you. Do you know what I mean? So
Yes.
That also creates an opportunity in education, because it's not just cross training I'm talking about. What I'm saying is that here's another polarization for you, right? Is that you've got to be able to do everything. Okay. Literally everything. And in a hotel, this was always kind of standard, right? If you wanted to be a GM or assistant GM or director one day, you would work your way up, right, Melissa? You'd start at the bottom, you'd work in F&B, front office, you'd gain skills amongst the different departments to assist you to manage everybody better, when you are ready, right?
Yes.
So that's the one thing, right? You got to do everything. But on the polarization end of that also, remember I said earlier today, what's coming is the specialization. So there's kind of this situation happening that I feel like students need to have the opportunity to learn everything. And then when they are ready to specialize, to offer that special thing, that magic that the guest is going to go there for. So let's just talk about, a tour guide. You study tourism, you learn everything about tourism. You work in a tourism company, you work around, right? Left and right, and you learn how everything works. You qualify as a tour guide. But now you don't just want to be a tour guide, right? You want to be a Chinese speaking tour guide or a German speaking tour guide, or you want a tour guide with additional skills. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
Like I'm an academic, but I have tourism and hospitality and travel background, right? So maybe I'm a hospitality and tourism expert with academic skills. Do you know what I mean? It's quite an interesting polarization. So for people to
It really
make it
is.
and succeed in what's coming, they need to be, as I mentioned earlier, prepared for a future that is uncertain. But we can see these things happening. We can see it. We can feel it. Like if you go somewhere, you can see that. Maybe if you go to a restaurant, Melissa, in Cape Town, there aren't 50 people there anymore. There aren't 50 waiters anymore. The person who's the host might be your waiter, might make your
Yes.
drink, right? I'm just making an example. The chef might come out to the table to serve the food, right? So you don't need a waiter. Okay, so, or you need a robot.
That's a good,
Or you
like,
need
I
a
haven't
robot.
experienced that, but that would be very interesting to see, you know, a chef bringing you your meal instead of the waiter.
So do you kind of, I don't know if that's a good example, but do you see what I mean by there's a polarization happening. There is something happening, a shift that is happening between this amongst the skills that we need. But the long and the short of it is you need to get those skills. Okay, so you know, to kind of answer your question, right, to train for or to be prepared for an uncertain future, I always see, you know, skills as like packing your suitcase when you're going for a trip, you know, or your armor or whatever you want to call it. But because I'm in travel and tourism, I always speak about a suitcase or a backpack. You know, you got to be adaptable. You know, there's a lot of things happening. I would say if you are a new entrant into the industry or re-entering, it is worth your while looking at the trends that are happening and making sure you are ahead of the curve, which is much harder than you think. But having these things in place will set you apart from everybody else that just has the standard run-of-the-mill qualification. But the experience is the number one thing. You can have all the tourism and hospitality papers, right? You can have all of them in your suitcase. But if you don't have the experience, you're going to struggle.
Now, Renee, what practical steps can, you know, students or job seekers take, especially using free resources? Because not everyone has, you know, the same access to things like the education and that. But what free resources and that can they use to build their profile and boost their employability? I know we mentioned platforms like LinkedIn.
Yeah. So I'm a firm believer in LinkedIn. I've spoken to many students on many webinars, podcasts, radio stations about LinkedIn and the importance of it. I think it is a lot of people underestimate how important it is, but I'm just talking social media in general, right, Melissa? If you want to employ someone, you're probably going to Google them, right? Let's just be fair. Everybody does that.
Absolutely.
Right? You're going to Google them, you're going to see what comes up. You're going to go to Facebook, you're going to search for them. You're going to go to LinkedIn, you're going to search for them. You're going to go to TikTok, Instagram, whatever. You're going to look at their social media presence. So whether you want that to be out there or not, or whether you want your personal life to be part of your job interview or application or not, this is the world that we live in. It is automatically there. Okay. So, and it can be difficult to sort of scrub these things, right? To delete your life or, you know, to remove these things. Noticing what the image is that you portray to the world, I think that is a very good starting point for young people, because that could literally mean a phone call to come to an interview or not. And people don't know why they're not getting called. And it could be, I'm not saying it is for every person, but it could be because there is something that is not adding up on your social media. It is something that does not match your actions, right? So you want to say you're professional? Does your social media image show that? Okay, you want to say, you know what I mean? You want to say you're curious about travel and tourism and hospitality. Have you been anywhere? Did you ever go anywhere in your own community? So, you know, that is the important thing, is if you're going to show me, show me. And the easiest way to show people is by your social media presence. Free resources. LinkedIn Learning is amazing. There are so many, it's free, and there are so many talented, you know, like very high level people that you would pay a lot of money to sit in their training that you can do for free. Right. So LinkedIn Learning, there's so many free platforms these days, like Udemy. I'm a big fan of a Wild Campus. They offer free tourism and hospitality courses. I saw earlier last week, they have a new free course you can do, which is tour guide skills in South Africa. They have like Big Five. So, you know, to maybe just pique your curiosity or something like that. But I also want to you can do masterclass. There's so many free resources you can use. Tipsy is one of them, Typsy. Tipsy is a great hospitality resource for there's also free, there are paid things on there, but a lot of it is free. Customer service, hotel, front office, short learning courses you can do. Google and Microsoft have tons of free certifications that you can do about all of these things we've talked about today, about the digital world, about tech, about AI, like, but something I want to mention, which I think a lot of people, Melissa, don't consider as, I want to say, learning. They don't consider this as learning, but have you ever searched or scanned through Netflix or Showmax or Disney Plus or whichever? Have you ever seen how much stuff there is related to travel and tourism, wildlife? There are amazing things, especially on a lot of wildlife things, Planet Earth, all of these things, especially on Disney Plus. Showmax obviously has a lot of South African talent. So it has a lot of South African kind of documentaries. And, you don't need to go to Bali, right? You can watch about it and learn about it and be curious about it. And that could speak an interest to you, right? You could go and Google it and learn about it. So people often think learning is like, oh, learning is boring, right? As a lifelong learner myself, learning is not boring. I learn every single day in every single situation. There's an opportunity to learn much later on. So you can learn anywhere. And I think just the last thing I would say on that, Melissa, is people are often looking for, I don't want to say someone to save them, but someone to save them, right? Always. People are like, I'm going to wait until this is ready and then I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do this, or this person needs to reach out to me and then I'll get an opportunity. And what I want to say, in our country, probably not going to happen, right? In most countries, probably not going to happen, right? You need to save yourself. And the way that you do that is you use the resources that you currently have. Don't wait until you have a master's or a PhD or a iPhone or a fancy computer or you know what I mean? Don't wait until you have capital. Don't wait to engage with someone on LinkedIn or in real life or to go somewhere. Use what you currently got and make it work. Okay. This is how a lot of successful people have done this, right? So don't wait. Don't wait until you're ready. Always put up your hand. I always say yes to things. It has never landed me in any kind of trouble. It has always given me amazing opportunities like today to speak to you. Always put up your hand. Say, I will do it. I can do it. I will figure it out. Or just say yes and keep quiet about the rest. Right?
I think that's a good idea.
But I have gotten some to see and be involved in and experience some, life-changing things in my life because I've put up my hand when someone else said, no, it's not my job. I don't feel like it. Or, oh, that's too much work. I'm not going to work in the holidays. Or I don't feel like doing that. Or, I don't feel like marking those assignments. I've put up my hand. I've said, I'm going to do it. Because you are the only person that's going to save you. You are responsible for your future. You cannot look back one day, Melissa, and say, oh, but I didn't get this. I wasn't given this. You've got one life to live, right? You got to go for it. You got to give it all you've got. You got to do the best you can for yourself and your community and your family. And that's how we make ourselves in this country stronger.
Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I mean, I still feel there is so much we can talk about when it comes to all of this. I don't even think we have scraped the surface, whether it is talking about how young entrants can enter or even, new exciting trends that come later on. I do want to invite you, if you are ever in Cape Town, please contact us.
I definitely will.
We will set up a podcast at the studio and you and I can sit down with a coffee and chat about all these things, I think there is so much that our viewers can learn from your advice, from your insights, especially in such a honestly, it's such an exciting industry,
It
you know,
is.
and it's an ever-changing one, and it's one that's never going to go away. There's
No.
always going to be tourism. There's always going to be hospitality, especially in South Africa. So, Renee,
Sure.
thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me today.
It's been lovely speaking to you. Thank you for the questions, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share a tiny bit of my magic and passion with you. I've had a lot of fun today.
Next time on the Training Portal podcast.
Because back in the day when I was left school and all that stuff, it was like, go do this, join the railways, do this, whatever. When you're 65, you'll retire, you'll be the foreman, and you'll have a valiant 2.3 kids and a tent or something like that, you know? And that was the sort of dream, wasn't it? So I realized at a very, very young beginning, I was about 19. This is not for me. But I couldn't get out.